Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Vento Aureo, or Golden Wind if you prefer, episode 36. So yeah, we're here with another episode of JoJo, and I'm excited for this one because it seems like we're finally going to be getting into like the real finale of things. Like, you could kind of say that it's already kicked off with everything going on in the Coliseum, but I think we're really going to start getting into it now. And I think, unfortunately, Narancia's death was kind of the big turning point to enter into the final stage of this series, this part of JoJo. And it really, really sucks, but it was still done well. Like, I cannot deny that. I cannot deny that his death was handled properly. And it felt like it respected him in the end. Like, Narancia was never, like, the most focused on character. Let's put it that way. But it still felt like the show and the characters still respected him a lot and still really cared when he was killed. And it felt like it meant something. Like, Abbacchio's death wasn't as impactful, I feel. Because Abbacchio, let's be honest, kind of came off as the stubborn asshole of the group. So his death didn't really, like, I'm not saying it didn't matter, it definitely did, but it didn't have as much of an impact. It didn't have as much of feels. Narancia, while definitely having some issues, both in terms of anger and just general lack of intellect, sometimes, if we're being honest, he was always a character who felt like he was valued in the group. He always felt like, it always felt like everyone actually cared about him. And even when he made mistakes, they were sure to continue to welcome him back time and time again. Like, the part where he has that grand speech and everything and chooses to follow them when they are, like, you know, betraying the boss and going off on the boat, it was a big moment in the series. And he's the one who mourned Abbacchio's death the most. And it felt like this really grand thing. Let's be honest. I'm not saying none of the other characters did, or didn't, rather. But Narancia was, let's be honest, the most caring member of the group. He truly loved his friends. And I think that's why I connected with him so much. Because of how much he valued the people closest to him. How good of a person he genuinely was. He had his issues, but he was willing to do anything and everything for the people he loved. And it makes sense considering his backstory. So it's like, I can't be too upset with his death here because, again, it was handled well. And honestly, it's JoJo. JoJo has killed off characters we've loved before. It's not like it's the first time. So it's not altogether what I'd consider surprising either, as I said last time. But getting to the point, this was definitely a big turning point. And Narancia's honestly led a couple of those. It's a big turning point in the series because I feel like everything before this, in the Coliseum even, was still just set up. Yes, it revealed the boss's face and his look in general. But still, I feel like it was just setting up for what's to come, for the final confrontation. And it's not just Narancia's death that I feel heralds it. It's the fact that what we had at the very end of last episode, too, with Polnareff inside Coco Jumbo's body, grabbing a hold of the stand arrow. Because he's technically no longer a stand user, due to the fact that Silver Chariot, or Chariot Requiem now, is kind of acting on its own. he's able to grab it without his stand rebelling against him. But Chariot Requiem is still coming after him because it still has its goal of retrieving the arrow and protecting it. So he's telling Mista, who's just generally the closest to him, to hurry up and use it on his own stand, basically to give himself a Requiem stand. That's obviously what would come of it. Meanwhile, we know that Diavolo is following and watching them. We don't know where Diavolo is, whose body he's in. We know Doppio's personality is in Bruno's body, but we don't know where Diavolo's is at the moment. I think I still have the theory that he might also be in his original body, like the Doppio Diavolo body, along with Bruno, and that somehow he's able to like take control for a short time to be able to act, and then kind of gives it over to Bruno so that no one notices. Because again, just for the briefest second of time, if he takes over, he uses King Crimson, and that's all that's needed. So yeah, I don't think Mista's going to end up using the stand arrow on his Sex Pistols. I definitely, for obvious reasons, think it's going to end up being Giorno. I just don't know how that's going to come into play. I don't know exactly what's going to happen next, but I definitely still think this is the beginning of the end game. Like, this is where things really get big. This is where things enter the final confrontation with Diavolo. Plus, you have to account for the number of episodes left. There's 4 episodes left, including this one. There's 36, 37, 38, and 39. 4 episodes. I don't think the final battle will start until next episode, but this is definitely going to start the confrontation itself, I feel. That's what I'm guessing based on the information I have. And I'm still saying that this is my second favorite part after Diamond is Unbreakable, and I honestly, unfortunately, don't think this final battle is going to change that. Because, again, just in general, I don't like Diavolo as much as I do Yoshikage Kira. I just don't. Not to say I don't like him. I do like Diavolo, just not as much. And just in general, I don't like the story as much as Part 4's. So, yeah. But I am hoping to enjoy this this final act nonetheless, and I hope it ends in a very good way. So we're just going to get this started. No use holding off any longer. So let's do it. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so Diavolo's presence was made known. We have found out where he has been. He's been in Mista's body, inhabiting it alongside Trish. And this makes actually a lot of sense, because of Trish being his daughter, it makes sense that his soul would kind of inhabit the same body as hers. It works. Since his soul was separated from Doppio's, that's the next most logical thing. Now, I was initially thinking it might stay in the same body, that Doppio's would be the only one moved out, but no. It actually went against that idea. So this episode focused pretty much entirely on this big game of wits, basically. It was all about mostly Giorno, but a couple of the others as well, especially Trish, and Diavolo trying to outwit each other. And after Diavolo was revealed, that's basically what it was going for. Diavolo was running after Requiem to try and get the arrow, and the others were just trying to stop him. Now, the way he handled this was really interesting. When Trish unleashed Spice Girl, he's able to grab onto Spice Girl and use it to control Mista's body, because Trish and Spice Girl had the majority control of the body. He was just kind of in the background. He was just kind of connected to it, but not really in control in any way. And so he was able to take control this way. And the kind of ways he would move himself about and stuff, like at the end there, especially like shooting Spice Girl and everything, or hitting Spice Girl, causing Mista's body to be launched through the air and everything towards the arrow. That is genius. I love that. And we've seen this kind of thing pretty much since stands were introduced, where when the stand is like knocked away and stuff, the stand user will be as well. Like that's something we have seen. So it's not like it's anything new. It's just the way it's being done here, the actual manner in which they're doing it, and for the reasons they're doing it in the show, or I guess technically in the manga as well, the way Araki did it, is genius. It's so smart. It's a great utilization of something we have seen pretty much since stands were introduced. So I love that. Now, it did seem like Trish died here, or at least it was very much hinted at that she might have. Because at the end there, after he like blasted that hole in her, which is definitely a way we've already seen he does go after people to kill them, Diavolo that is, we saw her spirit for a second in Spice Girl, and then it just kind of faded. That's definitely a kind of hint that she might have just died. And if that's the case, she went out like a fucking badass. Let's be honest. Trish, unfortunately, didn't get as much screen time as I would have really wanted her to, especially in the spotlight. When we first meet her, she's just very kind of mysterious and quiet, doesn't really get involved. She eventually starts coming out of her shell a lot more and becoming a little more interesting. And then eventually we see her get Spice Girl. Well, more along the lines of unlock it. And at that point, she's actually a much more fascinating and likable character, but then she doesn't do as much after that until this point, and now she's possibly, and I'd even say probably, dead. And that kind of sucks, but the problem is Part 5 has had that issue with a lot of its characters. Abacchio, Fugo, even technically Giorno, have not gotten as much focus and screen time as they should have. It's why Abacchio and Fugo both felt very underdeveloped, and why Giorno doesn't feel like the main character of the series. Why, I've said it before, Bruno feels more like the main character. But in the end, it's like, it just feels like certain characters kind of get the short end of the stick, while other ones are getting focused on a little too much. Part 4 was so good, partially because it balanced that out excellently. Josuke, Jotaro, Okuyasu, Koichi, even Rohan got a lot of screen time and a lot of focus and felt like a fully realized character. Part 4 did this excellently. It had a large main cast and some supporting characters to help flesh out the main cast a little more, like Yukiko and whatnot, and Joseph being brought back, obviously Josuke's mother. But in the end, it felt like they were validly fleshed out characters, our entire main cast. Here, it doesn't feel the same. Again, the only ones in the group that really did feel fully fleshed out are honestly Bruno, Mista, and Narancia. It was really just those three who have gotten the most amount of screen time, the best screen time, the biggest moments, and feel like the main characters. It feels like it's mostly about them. Giorno takes a back seat most of the time, and then suddenly, a lot of the time, he'll just get the kill on the enemy for no reason. And he just doesn't seem to have as much to do until like these big pivotal moments. The rest of the time, he's just kind of there following along. And you guys have tried to explain to me in the past, with past episodes where I've talked about this, all about how that's kind of more in line with his character and all. And I get that, but it still makes him feel like lesser of a character, in my opinion. From my viewpoint, he just doesn't feel as impactful as the likes of Jonathan, Joseph, Jotaro, or Josuke. He is easily my least favorite JoJo. And that's not to say I don't like him. It's just to say he's not as well developed. He's not as well characterized. He's not as interesting. In my personal opinion. But moving on from there, so yeah, Trish really got to do something badass in the end here, nonetheless. The way she tried, the really smart move she did by turning the bullets to rubber and everything with Spice Girl, to try and take down her father, and that really epic like little mini speech she gave there to her father at the end was so fantastic. Again, I just wish that there was, more she could have done, because Trish is a character who has so much fucking potential. And I just feel like it wasn't utilized as well as it could have been. But we definitely saw some great moments from her, and this was definitely one of them. And if she does survive in the end, if she does end up surviving this somehow, then I really hope that she has a good way to end off in the series. Now, with 3 more episodes to go after this, I said it in my pre-thoughts, but I definitely think the final battle is going to happen. Because here's what's happening again at the end. Diavolo has launched Mista's body towards the arrow, which was broken thanks to Giorno, and flung over towards them. So he's launched himself towards the arrow and is seemingly going to get it. But what I'm thinking is going to happen is that's when Gold Experience is going to get it and use it. I might be a little off. I have honestly no idea for sure. I mean, I'm pretty much blind to this, so. But that's what I'm kind of expecting to happen. Before he can get to it, that's when Gold Experience is going to get to it, and that's kind of what these final 3 episodes are going to focus a lot on. Gold Experience Requiem taking on the bosses King Crimson. So yeah, it's like, I don't know how they're going to do that, though. That's where it seems like it's going, but at the same time, it's like, how are they going to do that for 3 full episodes, or at least like 2.5 episodes? Because there'll probably be, that's probably how the last episode will be. Unless the entire last episode will just be like afterwards stuff, and it's only going to be the next 2, which is possible. I don't know. It's just, I don't know how they're going to stretch this out with 3 more episodes with having this fight. Because I don't want them to just keep stretching out this game of keep away and all. It's entertaining for like an episode. And it was good for this episode. But I want them to like change things up, basically. I don't want it to just be the same every time and for too long. I guess we'll just have to see. Giorno's idea for figuring out whose body Diavolo was in was genius, honestly. And the entire concept of the bodies mutating because of the different souls being trapped in them and stuff was something I hadn't even considered. Like, it never crossed my mind that that kind of thing could happen. Like, I mean, the only thing close is that I thought that maybe the bodies could reject the souls in the same way, like from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, where Al's suit of armor body that his soul was put into by Ed was starting to reject his soul because it wasn't the natural body for his soul. So it was kind of that's kind of what I was thinking, like it might do. It might reject the souls and like push them out of the bodies in a way. But I wasn't thinking anything like that, a mutation kind of thing. That's like freaky. That's weird. It's an interesting idea, I guess. I feel like, though, I feel like a lot of this stuff happening in the end of this part and everything is really, really, like, not confusing per se, but overly complex. Like, Araki going to the creator and all, because, this from the manga, you gotta count for that first. I feel like he was just trying to, like, make it as overly insane, crazy, bizarre, obviously, and complex as possible. It's like he was purposely making it convoluted, which I could completely see because it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This series has always had a very heavy hand in its kind of in-joke style. It's always been very tongue-in-cheek. It's always been very over-the-top, and it's been that way on purpose. Very much so. I mean, it straight up makes fun of itself at points. So the series has always kind of held that kind of self-humor to it. But at the same time, it's like it almost feels like this specifically is a little too complicated. Like the stuff with Kira in part 4 with Bites the Dust and how that works, like that I could understand. But then it's like King Crimson's ability just erasing time, and then all of this stuff about how the Requiem stands work, and all of Chariot Requiem's abilities. It's like just a lot of it. It just seems like Araki tried to put in like every convoluted idea possible to make Diavolo out to be like this all-powerful enemy. And let's be honest here. Prior to this, I would have said that Cars was the ultimate in strength in terms of all the JoJo villains. He was the strongest and most powerful in terms of his abilities. And Joseph only defeated him by outwitting him. But as of this point, no, Diavolo is definitely the strongest. Maybe not physically, but in terms of his mentality and his abilities, he's so far surpassed his Cars, it's not funny. And the problem with this is, where are they going to go? There's like 3 more parts, one of which is currently going in JoJo. What are they going to do? Like, here's the thing. I know who the main character, the main JoJo of the next part is, part 6. Which, by the way, I am really excited to see what the actual story for that is, just based on knowing who the main JoJo is. And it's like, I don't know their stand, by the way. I just know them. I've seen art of them, and I love their design and everything. But yeah, it's like, I don't know anything else about the upcoming parts. I don't know the villains or anything. Okay, I do know one thing. I know that there's one character, I don't know if it's a hero or a villain, but apparently is the President of the United States. That's all I know. Do not tell me any spoilers beyond that. That's all I know. But yeah, it's just like, where are they going to go? Like, what are they going to do with the enemy stands at this point? Because it's like, it started off well. Dio was very strong, but Cars definitely outweighed him. Even when Dio came back with the World and Stardust Crusaders, oh yeah, Cars was still definitely stronger. The only thing Dio had that gave him an advantage over Cars was the time stopping ability. And to be completely honest, that only lasted for a short period of time. I still considered Cars stronger in terms of ability, just generally. And then with part 4, Kira was very strong, but his ability, while very strong and everything, especially with Bites the Dust, was definitely more inherently about his strength rather than his ability. His strength and his threatening presence was definitely more about him, just the way he carried himself, his mind. He was so intellectual. That was what was more threatening about him. He definitely wasn't as strong as Cars. And he was only stronger than Dio in terms of, only because of Bites the Dust, honestly. Before that, he definitely wasn't. But then they go to part 5, and it's like just all of a sudden, King Crimson. Fuck. Seriously, it's like, King Crimson is so fucking OP, it's not funny. I mean, it kind of is a little funny, to be completely honest, but you know what I mean. I don't see any possible way they can defeat him. I know it's going to happen. I know they're going to. I just have no clue how it's going to happen. Other than, obviously, Gold Experience being turned into a Requiem stand. But then what the fuck is Gold Experience's Requiem abilities going to be that will be able to defeat something like King Crimson? Like, I have trouble comprehending how powerful King Crimson is. For something to be more powerful, or at least have an ability to be able to take King Crimson out, is incomprehensible to me. But I love that. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying all this stuff as if it's a bad thing. I'm saying all this like, oh, Araki made the ending parts of this, the ending portion of this part of JoJo really convoluted. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like it's a really huge negative. I'm just saying it's like, it's really confusing and hard for me to grasp. Because I'll be honest, I'm not the smartest person. I'm not like the most attentive. I'm not the most, I'm not able to comprehend as much as other people. There are other reactors who really get a grasp for certain things much better than I do. And are able to analyze those things much better than I can. I'm not really super great with that kind of stuff. So it's like this kind of thing confuses the hell out of me. But again, I'm not saying that as like it's inherently bad or wrong for it to do so. I still very much enjoy this. I think it's, again, on purpose. It's very intentional by Araki to make this as convoluted and over the top and just insane as it is. Because it's JoJo's Bizarre fucking Adventure. It's supposed to be like that. So I can appreciate that. I actually get a kick out of how over the top it is. And in any other series, this would not work. In any other series, especially one that took itself seriously, King Crimson would be so broken it would actually hurt the series. It would, honestly, in my opinion, ruin the series because it would just feel completely out of place and just would not work from a narrative perspective. But because it's JoJo, because this is a series that has built itself on not taking itself seriously, because it's a series that has built itself on being so stupidly over the top, it works here. And I may not understand it all. A lot of it may fly over my head. A lot of it may really leave me like with a bit of a migraine just trying to comprehend everything going on. I think that's part of the charm of this series. I think it's almost funny when that kind of stuff happens. But at the same time, like I said, I just can't comprehend on how he's going to be defeated. But I know that Araki is going, well, technically already has, pulled some kind of huge ass random bullshit out of his pocket to make it so that Giorno and them will be able to win in the end. I have no idea how it's going to happen, but it's probably going to be glorious. So yeah, don't get me wrong. Don't think that I'm like complaining when I say that it's super convoluted and super confusing and just super obnoxiously over the top. I am not actually complaining when I say that. I'm just saying it's like, it's really hard for me to comprehend. But again, that's part of the charm of it. That's part of what makes JoJo so fun. Because it's like, it's an example. Another example, real quick, I do want to end this. I've been talking for way too long. but it's like with Dragon Ball Z, one of its biggest problems was that each enemy just kept getting stronger and stronger, which made the heroes have to keep getting stronger and stronger to the point where it's just like the power escalation felt very forced. The new forms that Goku and the others would achieve felt very tacked on and not natural at all. And it just came across as just, it didn't fit. It didn't work. Because, honestly, Dragon Ball Z has a lot of comedy, and, well, Dragon Ball Super and all that as well. But in general, it is a series that takes itself seriously in terms of its story. It's a legitimate shonen action series. JoJo is, by nature, a parody. Yes, it has some things that can be taken seriously, and it definitely delivers some really epic and even inspirational moments, sure. But in its nature, it's a comedy series. It is a parody of all of these different shonen tropes, all of these different classic hero's journey tropes, basically. And that's what makes it so, that's what allows it to get away with this shit, while other shows like Dragon Ball Z can't. While shows like Dragon Ball Z, that kind of stuff ruins the series, in my opinion, and why Dragon Ball Z is so severely overrated, and Super as well. Just the Dragon Ball franchise, basically. But you get what I'm saying, I'm sure. At least I hope you do. But yeah, either way, this was a really good episode. It was a really fun episode. And the fact is, it did make me talk this much at the end here. It did give me this much to talk about. And like the recording timer says, it's been over 23 minutes since I started these afterthoughts. And it's like, it's insane to think about that. Insane to think about that I've been talking for this long on an episode that honestly didn't do much. But what it did do gave me enough to think about, to discuss, to really eat up. And that's what JoJo does best. It gets people talking. It gets people excited for what's to come. It gets people wondering, how is this bad guy going to be defeated? What is going to happen next? So yeah, that is definitely a testament to this series being great. But tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Vento Aureo, or Golden Wind if you prefer. And tell me your thoughts on just where you think this might be heading. But again, no spoilers, no actual spoilers. I wish to remain spoiler-free, especially considering we only have 3 episodes left now. I really want these final episodes to be spoiler-free. I do not want to know where this is going to go at all. But yeah, tell me your thoughts, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles,